Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Welcome Wednesday. This is the Smart Life Club, and you are on the Coffee Break Show. I'm Vickie Helm. I'm so glad you've joined us today. Do me a favor. If you're new here, do me a favor, put your name down there so I know who you are and I can meet you and I can get to know you. If you're here and you're joining us, welcome. I am so happy you're here. Listen, if you're watching this and it's afterwards, do me a favor and put hashtag replay, hashtag replay. Can you turn that down? We're hearing an echo right now. There we go. Thank you. Hashtag replay in the bottom there so that we can hear you. Do you have earphones there that you can use, Mr. Ray? Because we're causing an echo right now.
Okay, hold on.
Okay. Hi, Vickie, and hi, Ray. People are already jumping on. Listen, if you're watching on YouTube right now, thank you for being here. Do me a favor and smash the like button. And welcome aboard, everyone. So glad you're coming on with us today. Today, I am going to rock your world. I am going to rock your world. Good morning, Donnie. Nice to see you on. Karen, nice to see you on. Robin, nice to see you on. Today, I'm going to rock your world, and I want to introduce you to somebody who is going to change your life in the most unique, subtle, powerful, intrinsic way. And I want to tell you why I invited Ray onto the show today. Ray does this wonderful thing called the father's blessing or the daughter's blessing. And what happens when we realize that we're going around? I want to tell you how this came about for me. As most of you know, if you know anything about my backstory, if you've read my book behind you right there, The Ultimate Freedom, you'll know that I came from a violent background with a father who was just very violent. And one of the things that never occurred to me in my life, was that maybe even at 30, at 20, at 40, at 50, at almost 60 years old, that I was still feeling lost because of a lack of parenting. There was still a part of me that wanted to prove to my dad that I was good enough, that I was not some piece of trash or something that mattered in his life. And I probably was, but when the abuse comes around in your life, there's a part of you that doesn't feel accepted. And I never thought of that. Is there a part of me that doesn't feel accepted? Now, here's the thing. Everybody inside them has an adult. We can logically know that we matter. I'm adult. My life has meaning. I have things that I love and that I do and that matter to me. And what then would happen if you actually figured out there was a little girl or a little boy inside you that felt as if they didn't matter, that felt ignored, that felt like it constantly had to prove itself? You don't realize the subtle message that you tell yourself of how you're proving in the world instead of purposing in the world. You may think that you're purposing, that there's a part of you that is trying to prove yourself. Still, if you don't deal with this part of you, you will find yourself still attached to that one hook. And it rules you everywhere you go. So, I've had a lot of success. And at the end of the day, I met Ray and I realized I had a lot of success because I was trying to prove to my dad that I was still worthy. And in one instant, one moment with Ray, that was healed. And it was really a difference. I started serving people instead of trying to prove to people. It's such an interesting little dichotomy. And I brought him on today because that subtlety, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Vickie and Ray. Father's blessings for son, daughters, and orphans touch me so deeply. Thank you, Ray. Yes, it does. Dang, autocorrect. Hi, Ray. You should say you sound awesome in all channels. Thank you. So we're getting ready to spend some time with who I call Papa Ray. And to me, he's the epitome of my good dad, my loving dad, the man that helped me heal something very deep. And Ray, I want to welcome you to the show. I wanted to give them my experience of you. And this is Wednesday Welcome. And could you just tell them a little bit about yourself, and let's just dive right in.
Well, good morning, Vickie, and I'm so super excited to be here. And thank you for sharing your experience and what happened after we met. Is my number one goal in life is never to leave anybody the way I found them. My mission in life is to touch the hearts of the people and leave God's fingerprint. So I thank you so much for sharing that.
It's so interesting too, because a lot of times we forget we're divine beings and that we're kind of holistic beings, and that some parts of us attach to old stories. And most of the time, if you're conscious enough, and I believe that I work on that diligently every day to be conscious every day, it's certainly a practice for me. And that most people don't understand the subtleties of a subconscious thought or something in the past that they remember, but they don't think it influences their decisions or how they are right now or who they trust. And my issue, Ray, that we uncovered with that, which I want to really tell you all the beliefs that were released that day. That day that we talked, it was like all men are violent. That belief was erased. I mean, when you're younger and that's all you see there is that, release. The second thing is like all the belief systems that rule your actions. And so when you get to the point where you realize, oh my gosh, this has been ruling my actions for years, it's like once you let that go, there's a moment where you can say, who actually am I? Yes. Because you're finally asking who you are, not who you were in the past, not what that belief system was. And I'm wondering, could you tell them just a little bit of what's the reason you did this? And let's talk about the process that you use to, create the connection. Because I remember telling you when I met you, I just was at a table. I was actually the keynote speaker there for that weekend. And I remember thinking to myself, this is interesting. What would my life be like if I had a good father or the father that loved me? What would that be like? And I remember telling you at the table, everybody was listening, I was like, I actually think what you do is really cool. I'd actually like to experience that in my life today. You know what I mean? So let us know a little bit about why you created this. How did it come about? What did you do? Why do you have this?
Thank you. So I grew up in a single parent home. I grew up in a conservative Mennonite culture. And 54 years ago, a single parent or a divorce or separation was totally unheard of. And so they really didn't know how to handle it. So I would go through life just saying that I was rejected, I was abandoned. But let me just say before I share how it started, is what you say to yourself is what you're going to become. It's so critical. I will never, ever say that I was rejected or abandoned because I wasn't. My father simply did not have the ability to give me what he did not have. I keep this here cup in my office to show people. So here was my dad, and I was expecting my dad to give me something, and he wasn't able to because he was broken and he was empty. So my father literally could not give me what he did not have. So when I changed my perspective of how I looked at what happened, it radically changed my life.
Yes.
So how the Father's blessing started is a really cool story. I was in Brazil on a mission trip with Global Awakening. And the second part of the trip, I was praying for this lady, and the Holy Spirit said, stand in the places of her father. Now, I heard John Sanford from Elijah House talking about this. It was kind of vague in my mind. I'm like, I said, can I bless you as your dad? She goes, yeah, no problem. I said, well, I'm sorry for not being there for you. I'm sorry I didn't love you. And she just starts weeping and weeping, like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, I'm like, I love you, and you're blessed as a daughter. You're worthy. You're accepted. And that just brought out a whole new flood of tears. I mean, just floodgates opened up. I'm not even sure exactly everything I said, but something along the lines of, I bless you as a little girl. I bless you as a woman. I'm proud of you. And it happened about 4 more times that day. Went back to Brazil in 2006, same global awakening. This time, literally every person that came to me for prayer, the Holy Spirit said it's their dad. I'm like, but they said their shoulder hurts. And they said, no, it's their dad. I'm like, all right. So it
Wow.
got to the point, as soon as somebody walked up to me, I just said, can I bless you as your father? And they're like, of course. Every time, same thing happened. Just an outpouring of emotions, major healing and restoration. People were just, and the common thing I still hear today is when I'm done, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so light, like I'm walking on air. And I realize now what happens is we are breaking major bondages off their life. Like you
Yes.
were saying, the brain remembers
Yeah.
all that bondage, all that pain, all that suffering. The brain, the subconscious mind, held it in there.
Yes.
Which brings me to is I cannot believe how many people I ask, "What's your relationship like with your father?" And they'll say, "Well, it's okay." I'm like, let me clarify. What was it like when you were 5 years old? Well, it's really good now. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no. What was it like when you were five?
Yeah.
Because what happens is your brain formulates everything from the time of conception to you're 10 years old is
Mhm.
to what you're going to believe the rest of your life by
Wow.
what is in what you believe about in them first 10 years. The problem is so many people struggle through so much of their life and have a halfway decent relationship with their dad today, but the 5-year-old still feels the pain.
It's so interesting that you're saying that because when I first talked about it, I've already done the forgiveness work I need to do. But that's the adult that does the forgiveness work. There's a difference
Yes.
between forgiveness and validation and acceptance. And there is for some reason, our parenting, our father, our mother, and I got to let you know, I've always felt loved by my mother. My mother is the most awesome thing on the planet. And she
Wow.
really saved my psyche. She really did. But underneath, for some reason, when we feel out of sync a little bit, like you've forgiven and everything's great, and you understand that he's broken and the cup goes, it's like, how then do you fill that cup? It's empty until somebody else, there is like this step parent who steps in. And for some reason, when you're a little kid, approval is everything.
Oh,
It's
it's
like,
huge. Yeah.
are you proud of me? Are you still
Yeah.
proud of me? Because
Yeah.
I know as an adult right now, I use the words warm fuzzies when somebody is proud of me. And
Yep.
one of the best things my team can say to me is, Vickie, we are so proud of you. I mean, I
Yes.
lead a company and I try to do the best I can. And there's, people that depend on that. And they don't, every time that they get to the point, that validation that I'm so proud of you, that one thing, that anointing by the parent, that anointing allows you to think that you are alive and you're supposed to be on the planet,
Yes.
not that you were a mistake, not that you have no reason or purpose. And I think the interesting thing is a lot of people think that forgiving, just as, I've done all the forgiving, that this fills this. And I was wondering, could you say a little bit more of why it's so important and why it's like there's people when they feel the anointing, and when you do, I'm telling you this, it comes from a video. You'll feel it run through you. It's a
Yeah.
very tender moment where somebody else sees you for who you actually are, something that sees your inner instead of your behavior.
Mhm. Yeah, it's huge because again, your brain calculates and stores all the information that ever happened in your whole life. So every moment of the day, your brain is doing a research of your life to determine what's about to happen in the next moment. What it's going to do, the majority of that calculation comes by what you believe before you were 10 years old. The majority of
Wow.
it. And in a nanosecond, it comes back with a conclusion, and you're going to react in a split second. You have 5 seconds to change your mind, or you will do what you always done.
Wow.
Now, can you imagine? We have 40 thoughts a minute, up to 70,000 thoughts a day. Dr. Joe Dispenza says 50% of the thoughts we have today are the same as yesterday,
Yeah.
trying to resolve the problems that we haven't dealt with. The problem is we never stop to think what we're thinking. We never stop and
Yes.
really unpack, what am I
Yes.
thinking? Why? Why am I thinking this?
Why am I thinking that?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we don't like to do that because when we do, we get into some very painful things. And so many people say, yeah, I just don't want to deal with that. That's in the past. I'll just outrun it. Sorry. It's
Yeah.
impossible to outrun your past. You literally cannot. And I have so many of my clients as a personal transformation coach that don't want to go there. But Vickie, every time that they're willing, I'll have a major breakthrough in less than 4 hours.
You know,
Every
it's
single
so
time.
true. It's so true. And the thing is, to be unburdened of that changes you. It changes what you think is possible.
It's
It
huge.
changes the way you feel purposefulness or meaning. I want to go over here. Everybody's blabbing and I'm not paying attention. I want to go over here and say hello. The shift can be so immediate. Recognition of a block, then release. Yes, that's Robin. Karen
Yes.
says, Robin, that is so correct. When I watched Ray's Father's Blessing for Daughters, it began to change my thoughts immediately. The question I had to ask
Amen.
myself is, did I miss my father or what I wished the father I wished for had? Very interesting. That is the good question. I want to stop there for a second. It's like the question I had to ask myself is, did I miss my father or what I wished the father I wished for had? In other words, it's like we can make up a good father. I want to tell you this. This was what was so heartbreaking with Bill Cosby, because Bill Cosby became the dad of America. He was the good dad that everybody loved, and they wanted to follow in his footsteps. And he actually got college up. It's like the blessing of the father is so much that he raised the potential of humanity in one moment by stepping in as a surrogate father. Now, I know we know what he is now, but
Yeah.
at that moment when he was there, he was the surrogate good dad who respected women, who respected his wife and his career. Now we know he's in jail and we've got all that. But for that moment, that's the power of having father's blessing in that way. So somebody put the father's blessings there, but can you say a little bit more about people when you start wishing that you had a better family than the one you had, or you fantasize about growing up in, Johnny's house down the block, you are wishing for, what's the difference between what you do and what people wish for in a father? Do you understand the question?
Yeah. Let me see if I can unpack that a little bit. So when you fantasize or wish for something, you're really taking your eyes and your focus off of you being in developing what you already have. So acceptance of what is and accepting what you can't change is the most critical foundation to building into a better future.
Mm-hmm.
When if you can imagine that every day you wake up, you have 10,000 units of energy in your brain,
Yeah.
and that's it. And by the time them 10,000 are gone, you are totally spent.
Yeah.
So where do you want to spend that energy in wishing,
Yes.
daydreaming, fantasizing, and being upset and worried? Because what happens when we fantasize about something that's not happening or most likely cannot happen, it is we're giving away energy
Mm-hmm.
that we cannot utilize to become better. So out of our 70,000 thoughts a day, how many of them thoughts are literally, now I'm not, there's a difference between fantasizing and dreaming. So
Yes.
I'm a dreamer. I
Yeah.
dream big dreams of
Me
accomplishing
too.
great things. Now fantasizing would be me, I'm going to the moon. That's pretty much a fantasy. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's very much a fantasy. But where am I focusing that energy that I only have so much per day? Now, granted, a love deficit that it goes unfilled can never be healed. So many people try to run away from the fact that they had a bad father or a bad
Yes.
mother. They try to
Yes.
hide the fact. They don't want to talk about it. And I had one client that I really can't get into all of it because it gets a little lengthy, but something happened and she recorded it of her husband doing something. 3 days later, when she looked at the video, her body went into convulsions. I tried to tell her, I said to her, when did that happen with your dad? She just looked like this, and all she got, stop, we ain't gonna talk about that. Bam, shut it down. She refused to go there. She to this, she insisted her dad was an incredible dad. But you could just see the look on her face and the body language that wasn't true. She was
Yeah.
so afraid to go back there because it was so painful that she just bolted up, slammed it in the closet, and locked them doors. When I went to unlock that door, just all of a sudden she just did this, and I was like, bam, done. No, my dad's a good dad. That was it. Sadly, that has devastating consequences on your brain and the energy spent. Because everything you do in life, your brain is doing a research of your past to determine what's about to happen in the next moment. The majority of the calculations come from that childhood experiences. No matter how much you lock them up, no matter how much you refuse to deal with them, they're going to be there.
Yeah.
If you do not let somebody help you through it, let the pain come out. The pain will forever dictate.
Rule.
Yeah, it'll rule your future
It
all the
will.
time.
You know, it's so interesting that you're saying this because I was so ashamed and embarrassed about what happened to me that I never spoke of it. I think the first time I ever spoke of it my whole life, I was 40 years old.
Oh my
40
goodness.
years old. So
Wow.
from the time I was, there till 40, now I did everything to mask it. And my masks were very sexy masks. Now, my dad was super violent. He wasn't sexually violent, but he was very physically violent. And he was violent with my mother. And he was violent. Just he beat everyone. He was just a bully.
Oh
But
my
the
God.
thing
So sad.
about that, thank you. The thing about that was very clear for me is that my mother gave me some advice when I was younger that I never, ever, ever forgot. She said, Vickie, no matter what you do, never let yourself get stuck. See, it was 1960 and there were no laws to protect women. There were no
Oh,
laws to
yeah.
protect that.
Yeah.
And so what happened was she was just in it until we figured out a way to run away. And we had to literally leave the country in order to keep ourselves safe
Oh my
from the
God.
violence of that. So what happens then is I never talked about it ever, not with my mom, even though we saw it happen, the things that scared me until I'm 40 years old. And so what I wanted to do with that, and part of me is like, okay, hindsight's always 2020. If this is what pushes you, fine, you find your why. I didn't want to feel ashamed of myself. So the thing that I did was the opposite. I was like, okay, I'm going to have more success than anybody else because then I'm something, I'm somebody.
Yes.
And this is a super important thing. There was a point where I was a police officer. And when I was a police officer, there was 900 people who went to go apply for 12 jobs, 900 people.
Wow.
And I was one of those 900 people. but I was picked as number 7 out of the 12 people out of 900. And I
Wow.
went home for the first time. I was in my late 20s, my mid-late 20s. And I thought, I'm finally somebody. Out of 900 people, I was number 7. I'm finally somebody. And I stopped myself. That was that 1 minute that I stopped myself and said, now, wait a minute. I just associated the power of what went through to my self-esteem. I had a false sense of self-esteem. And that one thing, you think it's like, well, you have so much success, but success does not equal equanimity inside and success on the outside. My relationships were just terrified of men, terrified of them. Now, I can't tell you, I am surrounded with the most healthy, wonderful men in my life that are close to me, that I love so much. It's like the dynamic switch. Like my best friend, I can't even believe that there are such kind, good men. That whole thing transforms your belief. And now when I succeed, it's because I want to serve humanity, not because I'm self-serving, holding my false sense of self-esteem up. Most people can't get to that. And that's what blocks them from having more success, more achievements. I'm talking so much with you, Ray, because I love what you do. And I'm ignoring people over here. I'm going over here right now and we're talking to everybody.
So, real quick, you attract what you believe.
Yes. That's
100%.
the only thing. You attract what you believe,
yes.
and that's the most important thing. So the shift was so in me. Okay. The question I had there, we did that. There's your link to the Father's blessing is in there. Wow, this is a great distinction. What were my expectations and where they met or completely unrealistic? Yes, I came to realize that my dad was like the cup Ray showed. It was made a big change in my life. Yes, that's true. Thank you. It is incredible to realize that while you feel good as an adult, there's still a child inside that needs validation or healing. Wow. Hey, Mark, nice to see you on, buddy. When I stop to think, it interrupts my thinking.
That's what we want to do. We have to interrupt the thoughts.
That's right. It's like you have to stop and ask yourself, what conversation am I having with you? That's the work for me. You develop mindfulness and awareness and carefrontationally, not being a bully with yourself, carefrontationally stopping you in the middle and challenging what that belief is in the moment. Robin says, and as an adult before meeting you, Ray, I thought that my parents did the best they could with the resources they had. And though I still believe that, after talking with you, I realized they maybe didn't have the resources, knowledge of parenting, personal skills, understanding of child development, awareness, whatever I needed at the time. I am having a hard time with the broken analogy, maybe because I'd hate to think my kids think I was broken if I didn't meet all of their needs. Ooh, can you speak a little bit to that, Ray? That was a deep sharing, a really deep sharing.
We are all broken. To some degree, we are broken, meaning we don't respond in the way we know we should. There is no person alive. Even the Word of God says there is no righteous man without sin, not one. Paul even said, I struggle with what I want to do, I don't do. So we're all broken to some degree. And brokenness means I know better, but I do it anyway because I'm angry or frustrated, and I say or do things I shouldn't do. Now, the key is, how long do we want to keep doing what we know we shouldn't be doing when we do what we shouldn't and we know better? Mm-hmm. It is that thing we don't want to do. It's stop. What am I thinking? Why am I thinking that? Is it truth? What is the truth? So our brain, number one, wants to keep us safe. Number two, wants to conserve energy. So the other thing is we want to feel good about who we are and what we're doing. So our brain is constantly racing. How do I do the next thing to get the next attaboy? Now, if I slow down and I back up, I'm not making progress. Little do we understand, slowing down and backing up will make us go faster.
Totally.
It is a hard process. It is difficult. Even me knowing and teaching and training this, It's hard. I'm going to be real. Let's make
It
it real
is.
here.
That's the work right there.
It is very hard to slow down and say, Ray, what are you thinking? Why did you think that? Why did you say that? Why did you react that way? Now, a lot of my conversations with people, when I leave, I spend maybe 5-10 minutes rehearsing that conversation in my mind. It's like, Ray, did you make them feel good? What did you say? Why did you act that way? You know, so I critique myself in a way that, because I want to constantly be better. So the answer is, yeah, we're all broken to some degree.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because it's hard. It's hard to do the interperspective work.
Yeah.
It's hard to self-critique. It's not fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's more fun to plan and strategize and, well, how can I just be better? And the way you be better is you go back and dig into the foundation. Ouch.
So let me ask you something. Let's say you're a parent right now, and let's say you have adult children. Let's say that you want to give them the father or the mother's blessing because you're alive and you can do that. What would you say to those parents who are listening right now and thinking, I would like to anoint my child so they absolutely know, without a doubt, right now, this one specific thing. And, you know, parents always say, you can be whatever you want. You're so smart. You're so great. What's the actual real blessing? What's the anointing here? What can they do, even if they have adult children?
This is so important because I do what I call an immersion, where I go and stay in people's houses for 3 days and work from 8 in the morning to 6 at night at their kitchen table. On the third day is always my favorite day, is when they invite all their adult children or have all their children come home. And I sit there with mom and dad and I lead them through sharing a blessing, starting from conception, first, second, third trimester, just the way I do it. And I have mom and dad do this with their children, including adult children. Oh my goodness, Vickie, that is so, I'm getting chills right now just talking about it, because that is so powerful. If you think it's powerful to hear me speak it, can you imagine your own
when your
father
parents
and mother
speak it?
Speaking this? It is so amazingly powerful. I have a very detailed explanation of how the Father's blessing, what it entails. I'm just brainstorming right now how to get that into the public, because the Holy Spirit gave me this vision and has helped me to grow it. This is not what we use. And the Father's blessing has never been what we looked at as a profitable or our income, because we get that in our coaching. So I'm just trying to think. I'm just going to put this out on a limb here.
Just do it.
Email me at Rayh at ilapnow.com and ask me for the Father's blessing, the detail of the Father's blessing. And I will send you, it's about 7 or 8 pages, maybe more, but it goes into detail of why we say what we say, where we say it.
Yeah.
And it really explains it in great details. I want to share that with the world, because I believe the number one social struggle in the world literally comes down to the lack of a father's affection in a child's life.
Wow, that's huge.
Every culture, every religion, every background, if you really trace it back, and every client that I ever work with, I'm going to say, I'm going to be a little more generous. 90% of the clients I work with have father wounds. And when we heal that father wound, it is huge, because so many people can't see God as Father because of how they see their Father here on earth.
Interesting. That's such an interesting insight.
That's why we always go for the mental, emotional healing first. Instead of going for the spiritual, the mental, emotional will always block the spiritual every time. And if there's not emotional healing, there can't be spiritual healing.
Thank you. That's so true. It's a fundamental ground. I'm blowing up over on this side. I want to talk here a little bit, because Barb has an interesting insight here. She says, I've often been called a daddy's girls. Listening to this leaves me feeling tremendously blessed to have had a father who never passed judgment on me, and from the get-go inspired me to start from within. Wow. And that's a powerful, I want to thank you for that, Barb. I want to put that out right now, because I know right now some of the best fathers ever, the fathers that are my friends. There are some men out there doing exceptional father work right now. Donnie has such amazing kids. He's such a great dad, gave up everything and took on the role as single parent as kids, and just such a blessing in the world. There are good men, Barb, and you're so right. And I want to honor them in that moment. I want to honor those men as well. We are abundantly blessed, Barb. Your father was a special man. Now we're talking. Energy is within us. This is still Barb. We're down a little bit. Energy is within us before we are born, our entire lifetime, and after our physical being is gone. Barb, you are so aligned, so smart. This girl is my sister. I'm telling you, she is just amazing. Thank you for that. I agree with that. That's it. And Robin says, oh man, Ray, I totally get that. I believe that my dad was a great dad, but reflecting on some of the things that he did that were not so great and had a huge impact on me. How I do things and choices I have made in my lifetime, etc. Somebody said, hugging you, Vickie. Brian Reynolds, good afternoon, my friend. I'm so glad to see you. God, you guys are talking so fast. So he's here. He's not going away. Good afternoon. You attract what you believe. Thank you. That's right. So, Vickie, you're definitely agree that good people do exist. So, Vickie, you definitely agree that good people do exist. Yes. I believe that there are more good people than not good people. I agree with that. Brandon, there's a thin line between pride in self and humility. Yes, I want to talk about that. I want to speak to that, because if you go to the video on his website and look at it, you will see humility in action. When the divine is working through you, the only way the divine can come through you is through surrender and humility. Amen. And I really think that's something that Ray actually really exudes in conversation when you meet him. So there's a thin line between pride in self and humility. And I'm wondering if you could address that a little bit from the Father's perspective and the blessing, the difference between pride in self and humility.
So you do need to be proud of yourself to the point where you don't let yourself just fall apart and do nothing. Mm-hmm. So there's a self pride that is healthy, but then there is a pride of arrogance. I am better than others. That's wrong. That's unhealthy, and that's a sin. But to be proud of yourself, to be confident in yourself, is very critical. Unfortunately, there are a certain belief within the Christian community that we need to be a humble, and it's an unhealthy humility. Mm-hmm. So there's a very unhealthy aspect of humility, but then there's a very unhealthy aspect of pride. So we got to be proud in who we are as a son and daughter of God. We got to be proud and enough that we don't let ourselves fall apart. But again, it's when we start thinking we are better than anybody else and nobody else can match with us, that's where it gets unhealthy. Very unhealthy. One thing I did want to touch back on is there are a lot of amazing, beautiful fathers that just didn't know how because they were busy. Come back to the 70,000 thoughts a day, 40,000 thoughts a minute. My mind. So let me just share my story. Married 34 years. I was not a good father for 25 of those years. I was not a good husband. I was not a good person. 6 years ago, I was 5 minutes away from suicide. That was my second major depression in my life. So let's just come back to what's really going on in the brain. 40 thoughts a minute, 70,000 thoughts a day. My thoughts were survival, overwhelmed, bogged down, just feeling rejected, abandoned, worthless, stupid, unwanted, struggling, And so what do? I'm not able to find my worth in what I'm doing. So I got to do something more. I got to do something better. Well, that didn't work. So then I strive to do something more and better. And that failed because I didn't have the resources. So what do when things don't go well over and over and over? You fall down. When you start crawling around on the ground, guess who's there? Other people who failed. Guess what the common denominator is? People who failed. They're angry, they're bitter, they're upset. Now, my brain is consumed with all the bitterness and anger and strife that I'm going through in life.
Yes,
where other people, overwhelmed themselves, had no idea how to help me, even including in the church. They were overwhelmed. They were bogged down with their junk. They didn't have anything to give me. So what do? I start looking in the wrong places. Guess what? There's a lot of attention in the wrong
places. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that quick, you're like, oh my gosh, here's where I get my attention. I'm not getting it anywhere else. I'm not getting it from the church. I'm not getting it from nobody. So now you become consumed with guilt, shame, and you try to be better. You try to get back up. You fall down because you put a lot of effort in and you're exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted.
Yeah.
What gives you the high? What gives you the boost? Drug, sex, rock and roll. You know what it is.
Yep.
It's all about trying to get that fulfillment again. And then you fall back down. The problem is I never stopped and said, Ray, what are you thinking?
Yes.
Why are you thinking that? Is what you're thinking truth? What is the truth?
Yes. What is the truth is a deeper question, because you really have to meet your soul, the soul of who you are, and allow you to understand that now you're not meeting the expectation of your father, you're meeting you. And now this is where you get to learn to parent yourself. And learning to parent yourself means that there is a moment where you can stop yourself and ask that question. That the whole thought of being able to reconnect a different thought in that moment, it's so empowering. It is so empowering in that moment. It is the one single thing where you can generate a new belief in that moment. Ray, I know we're almost at the top of the hour. There's a lot going on over here. I want to talk to them. You okay with staying a little bit longer?
Sure. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So, wow, it's just blowing up over here. Wow. My father passed away early in our lives. And I know that my brothers had really bad interactions with him that they never got to resolve because he passed. Interesting. That's why Ray does the work he does right now. And it's so effective so quickly. Get Ray's free detailed summary of the Father's blessing at his site. It's already on there, guys, so you can get it. Cannot imagine, Robin. Brandon says, I never had a relationship with my father, but it's inspired me to be a better father to my daughter. Yes. And go look at the daughter's blessing. That is some of the most powerful things. It's
also a blessing to the son, the same as the daughter.
Yes, there's a blessing to the son as well. That's right. It's so great to see super dads. Seems like our species has evolved to have greater percentage of good fathers. And Vickie and I have been blessed that we have super men in our lives. Yes. I want to say a shout out to a couple of people. Ray, I want to thank you for healing this or bringing this part of my life into alignment so that I can enjoy that. Don and Scott, you are two of the greatest men that walk the planet, and you are a blessing and a gift in my life. John Williams, you are my best friend and the person who has stood by me while I went through this mail thing. And I want to let you know, I love you so much. And although you're not here right now, you're in Kansas, I want to let you know that you will always be an important person in my life. And I thank you for your amazing friendship. Let's see. Brandon says, I never understood the difference until you explained it the way you did. Thank you, Ray. Thank you. That's good. I think that's where being a grandparent gives us another opportunity to be great parents, role models, because we have a little space between what we did originally to reflect. Yes, that's true. Karen says, thank you for being here today, Ray. What you shared today is life-changing. I truly hope others share this live to help change other people's. Yes, please share it out. Thank you. Maybe I'm looking for attention in the wrong places. Thank you for opening my eyes to this truth, sir. Yes, thank you. Yes, Robin, grandparents help raise us in ways our parents couldn't, and other blessings. Donnie, thank you. I see greater than 3. Thank you so much. And to all the good men in the world, I want to talk about what Barb says, because this is really important to me as well. Barb says, and thank you for your courage in saying this, Barb. I've just read it. I want to say that my mom was more like your dad, Vickie. However, my dad enlightened me early on that she was living with an inoperable brain tumor. Talk about doing the work. I was more than challenged to accept what is before it was the thing workaround. It moved forward into the now. And I want to repeat that again. Okay. So my mom was more like your dad, Vickie. However, my dad enlightened me early on that she was living with an inoperable brain tumor. Talk about doing the work. I was more than challenged to accept what is before it was a thing workaround. It moved forward into the now. And that is, it's not just the father's blessing. There are women out there who have not been great parents. And so I think right now, the beauty of just being and realizing, if we can just take a moment and realize, what I'm trying to do today was be very open with everyone about my personal life and what happened to me and how it affected me. And I was very fortunate, meaning that the way I wanted to deal with it was to have more success. But I looked at one of the first men and one of the most impactful men in my life ever, Ken MacArthur, to me, is the epitome of the good dad. Ken MacArthur is the guy that is the impactful father. He makes you think. He loves everyone, and he gets that so much, so deeply. Ray, they're still blowing up, and I'm going to keep going here. Wow, Barbara, that was an amazing role model and super aware of your dad. He was. Yes. Once again, Barb, your dad is a superhero. I agree with that. Scott Stevens, I was blessed with caring, loving parents. I truly believe that all kids had parents like I had. Oh, yeah. That's, everybody believes that. You always think that until Leave It to Beaver came on or something. What a surprise to learn that having 2 good parents was a very rare thing, right?
Very rare.
To have it very rare. And we somehow think that everybody ends up with 2 good parents, but right? Thank you for that.
Let me just clarify. Even a good father who intentionally tries to do good things, the child can still have a perception that something wasn't done the way it should have been done. That can leave a void. Now, we're not, and here's the other thing I should have said right at the top. We are not here to shame or blame anybody for anything.
That's right.
We never bring accusation or shame or blame, ever. No matter what the people tell me their father did, we never bring accusation. We are here to bring healing. And because accusations is not healing, accusations makes you a victim. The more you accuse your abuser, the more you're a victim.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We do not want anybody to be a victim. What we want people to do is to be healed by changing how do they see it. So this dives into a little deeper
perspective.
Is when you change the core value of a belief, it instantly changes your belief of it. Now, the enemy, Satan, the demons, have no authority in your life until you believe a lie. When you hold on to a lie, you build a platform then for them to stand on. And when in Brazil, I've been to Brazil 6 times, and we done some deliverances and stuff down there. Now my focus is find the lie, take out the lie, bam, they're gone.
That's right.
Instantly.
That's it. That's simple. That's powerful
simple.
and that's
that
simple.
simple.
We're
Really
blown
that
up
simple.
over here.
Take the lie away, the demons are gone instantly.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to go over here because they're talking really fast. Scott, when do you have a great dad and family? You assume everyone has them. Yes. Lori says, I am grateful to have 2 amazing parents in this lifetime, and they will happily celebrate their 60th anniversary this summer.
Praise
wow.
God. Wow.
Congratulations.
That is awesome.
That is really powerful. That's so wonderful. And congratulations to both of them. 60 years. Wow.
Yes.
And they have some amazing children because, well, I know Lori and she's amazing. Let's see. Vickie, Ken MacArthur does create the powerful dad impact on so many. That is why we nickname him. We call him Papa Bear. Like they call you Papa Ray. We call him Papa Bear.
Nice.
Sure, you don't go looking to see how your family does match up or how your friends and parents are messed up. I always thought everyone had great, loving parents. Donnie, what a great, blessed practice life gave. Oh, boy. Gave you, Barb. No wonder you are so present in the now. Yes. Blaming always reinforces victimhood. That's correct.
Yes.
That is what he said there. Ray is not trying to accuse anyone. He wants you to create healing. That's a vast difference. And I want to explain that. It is such a great healing to have that done. My mom was an excellent parent when her mind was working okay. She too, in spite of her limitations, was a blessing. Many, many great things she taught me. Had it not been for her, I would have never met Zig Ziglar. Ooh, that's cool. I want to close this out because I don't want to drag him into tomorrow, and I know we will. But I do want to say this, Ray. There's a couple of things I want to add about this. You made several key points, and I want to give the 3 most powerful ones for me. One is when you change your perspective, when you change your belief, you change your life instantly.
Yes.
Now, let me tell you, that is a simple move when you're willing to let go of your ego, which is the second thing he talked about. Changing perspective. Now you have to look at changing perspective from your soul, not your mind. Your mind doesn't change perspective. Your soul does. Your mind has a swap. All it does is swap one new thought for another new thought. It likes this thought, it'll hang on to it for a while. When it sees one that it likes better, that's the only time it's willing to change. And it'll go, oh, this thought is better. And it'll grab the new one and let go of the old one. Perspective is different. It's point of view, it's focus and attention, which is the third thing that I want to bring up that he said. And I want to close with that. That third thing is whatever you focus on, it grows. Wherever your attention is placed, that's what becomes real. Whatever it is that you're using. Now, we don't understand that we have primary focus and secondary focus. That unconscious thing in the back of your mind that has been running your life that you're not paying attention to, that you don't see, that you get a moment to look. That's the thing that we are looking at. Everybody has this amazing adult, but there's still that little boy, that little girl inside you. That's what we're talking about here today. Ray, thank you for blessing us today with you and everything you have to share with us. I hope this blesses so many people. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, you guys, I want to let you know we'll bring him back someday. Mwah! I'll talk to you later. Welcome to the Smart Life Club. We'll see you tomorrow at Thursday. Bye-bye.